Uh, let's get into the news that happened today. So first off, the CrossFit Games, this was announced on Twitter. They posted that, and this is a quote, due to travel restrictions and circumstances beyond control, the dates for the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games will be adjusted. The soonest potential start date is August 17th. More information will be released next week. So there's some things that are obviously said there, and there's some things that aren't, that I think a lot of people are kind of running with right now. I do certainly believe the travel restrictions, that might be a problem.
Yes.
So I believe that. The thing that I'm wondering is how much of this was motivated by all the fallout from the Greg social media and the letter and everything that followed that, and athletes now saying that they're not going to go, and CrossFit needing maybe some more time to sort that whole situation out.
I'm sure that has something to do with it. Also, did you see John Woolley's post about it? Make Watts great again.
I did,
right,
and I think that's exactly what a lot of exactly what a lot of
point.
people are thinking is that
there's also an issue that I think is really important, is the red tape issue. They still don't have a permit, right? And so we're coming off of obviously some of the COVID restrictions and lockdowns where you've effectively had the Monterey County, which is where the permit would have to be applied. It has been created. Monterey County has to go through all of these hoops just to not only approve this under the new COVID restrictions, but they've got a backlog of things that they've got to deal with before they even get to that permit even gets tabled, right?
So that could very well be it. This could all be totally exactly what it says. Yeah. Circumstances beyond our control.
If you think that a permit takes anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to get approved, pushed through, and that's, I would say decently standard. I mean, based on when they moved back to Aromas, that puts you really up close to, and then you account for the delays and everything like that. And for anyone wondering, Monterey County is a tourist destination for a lot of people. There are events going on all the time, whether it's in Pebble Beach, Monterey, ag events in Salinas. Shout out to all my fam. They did the lowrider. They did like a lowrider convention one time in Salinas. But there's tons of stuff going on. So I think for anything that potentially happening in the fall, there's going to be this huge pileup of events because of their golf events and things like that go on as well that have gotten backlogged. And I think that we kind of mentioned this pretty much right before the games got announced they were moving to Aromas, that they should push back the date.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think this is a bad thing for them.
No, it's only the smart thing to do, right? Like, give yourself more time. Why, if you're holding it at a private location that you have pretty much run of the mill at, why not give yourself more time? Why purposefully put yourself under the gun in these situations, especially?
Well, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even like under recent circumstances, like with a huge changeover, and obviously Dave, now if you're the director of the games is now CEO, he's got to take on a whole new plate worth of stuff. On top of like training department stuff that are trying to get sorted because the director there just gone. So it makes sense. I'm surprised they didn't do it earlier.
Yeah, I am too, because the travel restrictions to me are one of the biggest things right now. I mean, let's pretend that everybody's going to end up showing up.
Yeah,
the athletes who have said they're not are going to go. Those are always the questions that were asked to us about, well, what happens if they can't get athletes from Europe, or they can't get the athletes from Australia, or they can't get the athletes from Canada? Well, now you're looking at a much thinner field. I mean, you'll still have, I'm guessing, the same amount of bodies, but you're not going to have the top athletes. And now a lot of those top athletes are saying they're not going to go. So this allows you to deal with that situation. And we can talk about this here in a second, because some of the stuff that came out today, I think, also speaks to that. The athletes being dissatisfied with what's going on. And it also allows you to fix the travel problem. With some more time, maybe those restrictions loosen. So right now, earliest we're looking at is August 17th.
Yeah. I mean, you've already had Jay Crouch announced this morning. He won the Australian CrossFit Championship. He announced that he's out just because travel restrictions and the uncertainty of everything in CrossFit. He just was like, you know what? And he's a rookie. This is like him and Adam Davidson too. Adam Davidson's a rookie too. Like, they've been working at this for a while.
Yeah.
But interesting enough, and I think it should be noted, travel from Canada is allowed by air.
Well, so that's my thing. Couldn't you technically, and I don't know enough about this, but couldn't you fly to Canada and then just make your way into the United States?
Yes. And I'm obviously not trying to give, I say this begrudgingly. Mm-hmm. You could fly to Canada, hang out for 2 weeks to quarantine, essentially, because you're allowed to come in if you haven't been to any one of those like banned countries for 2 weeks. So if you fly into Canada, hang low for 2 weeks, whatever, you're fine. Then you could fly from Canada to the United States. That is allowable. You cannot go travel, I guess it's weird saying by foot or by car across the border. That is still restricted till July 21st, I think. But even non-essential air travel from Canada is frowned upon, but it's allowed.
Okay. Yeah, that was a thought that I had. I don't know what the details for that were. So thank you for outlining that. But the next thing that we're going to get into, I think, address at least a little bit some of the concerns that the athletes are voicing about a change in direction, new culture, things like that. So earlier today, this is the first thing that came out that I saw. And this is a post, may even been yesterday. But in the past, 24, 48 hours, there was a post from CrossFit HQ, the games, on Instagram, and it listed out some things that they're going to do. And you and I talked about this on our Q&A episode that we did Monday, where we said, you got to at least give people a roadmap, tell them what you're going to do, and give some milestones for what those things are, what they are, so that people can at least hold you accountable. Like, we're going to do this, bear with us, and then the community can judge whether or not you did that to their satisfaction. So the things that they put in the post are, the first is, and this is a quote, commissioning an external analysis and review of diversity and cultural representation. I think that's a good thing. Don't know who's going to do it, but I think that's good that they're saying they are going to do it. So that's moving in the right direction, I think, and they've put it out there. The second one, and this had me kind of scratching my head, producing media that represent and creates opportunities for the Black community and underrepresented cultures. Again, that's a good thing, but Tommy, don't you need a media team to do that? Call me crazy.
Sean, you always take your tinfoil hat off for a second. Yeah, I mean, I guess they would have to. I guess that would mean a departure from what their current strategy is now, because right now that they don't have the staffing and the media team to be able to put out something, and not just put out something. Like you could contract out someone out to do a video here, and they've always done that. But regularly putting out media, both from underrepresented cultures and community, but also to the scale to have consistent messaging across all of your platforms, to have this comprehensive message. There just isn't the manpower in house right now. So they're either going to have to start bringing more people back. They used to have a huge network of contractors. They're going to probably have to lean on those again. That's
where I kind of think they're going to go. Yeah, is just get those people to do stuff. But you still think that you're going to have someone do. I mean, this is really what you want to do, and I think this is a great thing. Someone who kind of coordinates all this, and maybe that person's in the building, maybe he or she isn't. But that, to your point, that is a departure from what their approach is, to be just let everybody else do the media, and we'll just sort of aggregate it and put it on our site. So that'll be interesting to see how they do that one. And then the final one was continuing to collect, organize, and circulate feedback internally while consulting with diversity experts. And the question I have is, who are those diversity experts going to be?
And I think it's interesting that they had to add the internally as well, because externally, they've deactivated comments on the Instagram post.
Yes.
And they have for the last week. So I think it's odd that, while to play devil's advocate, I can understand that they don't want it to turn into this like huge, just
I can't blame them for that.
But at the same time, I feel like they're in a position now where there's a level of distrust, and it would go a long ways to basically saying, hey, this is what we got. Part of transparency is part of being open is not just closing your, not just being open to the feedback you want to hear. I do this. This is kind of a little bit of a personal stance, but I have never deleted a comment off my social media, and I pretty much address everything that I can, or at least that I see.
Right.
You know, obviously, certain times of high traffic, it's hard to do it personally, but I always, any response is from me personally. So I think at this point, with the level of distrust for, about HQ and the games in general, they should just leave it open. If they're truly open for discourse, I think you have to at some point.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I say that like hesitantly and like almost with a little bit of sadness in my heart, because I know some of the people behind those accounts are hurting, you know, and they're having a really tough time, you know. But it's also like at the same time, you can't run from it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it was sort of a head scratcher as to why they've. I mean, I totally get it. I understand why they've disabled the comments, because it would get. I mean, there'd be a lot of bombs being dropped, thrown, and grenades tossed by people in there, and.
But you can't.
But you should, to your point, you probably shouldn't duck that, because you're the ones who like leaned in. I mean, you're the ones who fired the first shot. Really.
Yeah. You can't parachute into a war and then get mad because bullets are flying.
You can't yell no tag backs.
Yeah. Classic older brother move, by the way.
Exactly. I've definitely pulled that one. But along the lines of communication. So this was the thing that Dave announced this afternoon here on the West Coast. So he posted something, and you and I have talked about this, and it's been suggested to us in different formats, like different ways you could pull this off. But they're going to split at least the United States. They're going to split the U.S. into districts, and then each district will have an affiliate representative that will facilitate communication between HQ and the affiliates in their district, as well as between other districts and collectives as well. So this is sort of representative democracy here, which I think this is a great step. It allows a two-way street. I mean, it's not, I don't know how direct the voting is going to be to choose somebody. They might just pick somebody that gets nominated. I don't know what it's going to be, but at least the affiliates will have some sort of voice, or there's a plan to let them have some sort of voice and a two-way conversation.
So you're telling me that the United States is now divided into districts, and each district will send forward a representative. Someone check Dave Castro's Netflix? Did he just watch The Hunger Games?
If he comes out, he needs to dress like that. Who was it? Stanley Tucci's character with all the wild hair and the suits. Yeah. Just lean into it. Just do it, man. Dave. Go full Hunger Games, and then we'll know exactly where we are.
Instead of like a white dyed updo, just cornrows again.
Something like bleached cornrows. Yeah, with like wild eyebrows or whatever he's going to do. But yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a very good point.
So on a surface level, I like this.
Sure. I think these are everything that we just talked about. They are all steps in the right direction.
The follow-up question I would have is, what is the process with which these representatives get chosen? Do affiliates have a say in who gets chosen? And what is the system of communication? And this is not necessarily I need these answers right now, because this is just you have to let due process carry out. But how does this communicate? What do the communication lines look like once it's going on? Because I think it wouldn't do as much for me if it's more like, hey, these are the districts. You can suggest them to us, but we're going to pick them. You know? No,
I agree. We're
gonna handpick our people. It's like, well, no, it's not really how the Senate kind of works or the Congress kind of works. I mean, maybe, yeah. But I mean, at least you still get to cast a vote. Right. You know, but.
Well, and I think because on the post, Dave asked for people like, hey, if you know anybody, let me know. And maybe they put a list of names together and they put those out to the affiliates, and then the affiliate owners get a vote. I think that'd be good.
Sure.
I just think the fact that this is that they say, yeah, we want to do this. And to your point, those are things that definitely need to be answered
down the line. Yeah.
But at least it seems like there is momentum going in the right direction. The problem is now for a lot of people is that this is all well and good, but does it matter if they see Greg is still the 100% sole owner of this company?
Yeah. And that's with any development going forward for now, that will always be the question, right? And that will, for a lot of people, that is where, and we've said this almost ad nauseum, that like a lot of the people, the determining factor for them is putting money in Greg's pocket. These are all great, right? But who's to say he couldn't just walk this back one day? And I'm not saying you will.
Well, but that's the thing. I think that we talked about this. I think it was you mentioned this on our Q&A episode where you said the CEO position has been rather fluid with HQ, and that basically means it's we all know where the real power is.
Yeah.
And if I think one thing that might alleviate some fears and some concerns is that if it is shown and demonstrated that Dave is the one who is really calling the shots here. Mm-hmm. And even though Greg is still making money from this, which I know is still a red line for a lot of people, if Dave is really calling the shots and Dave gets to put the people in charge that he wants to put in charge, maybe that does win some people over.
Yeah, it could.
But I don't know if it goes far enough for a lot of people.
Yeah. And that's a personal decision that people are going to have to make, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, all of these changes, absent of like who owns the company, I think are great. And mm-hmm. it's like, you also have to think, like, why are these changes happening? Like, so everything comes down, like a lot of this comes down to me too. Why are these changes happening now? Why is Greg retired? Why is Dave Castro the CEO? Why are these changes happening now and quickly? What is the mechanism of action? You can't tell me that it's not because Jim's walked away.
Oh, I think I agree 100%. But I think though that there are two separate groups here that you need to appease. The affiliate owners are one of them. And I think, and I don't know, but from talking to a few of them, I think there might be a lower bar to clear for that one.
Yeah.
I think the athletes are the bigger problem.
That is
because I think that from their standpoint, I get the feeling, and I haven't talked to a ton of them, but I get the feeling that the involvement of Greg is the problem. Yes. That's the biggest problem. While they, I think, support the diversity initiatives and they support all the stuff that we just talked about. It doesn't affect them as much as being associated with a brand that has a certain person running it with whom they don't want to associate.
It's no different than the Donald Sterling LA Clippers situation from a few years back, right? Where they essentially don't want to be beholden to someone that views them in mm-hmm. that way. And I think in many ways, the athletes want more control over the sport. In that regard, it feels very much like college sports, like where college athletes have very little power, and they're largely used to the great benefit of other people besides mm-hmm. themselves. And I know certain athletes obviously do very well, but for the most part, like it's, the pro athletes in our sport, the 30 to 40 on each side, they got to work. Mm-hmm. They're working hard for what they get, and yeah. So it's like I've been kind of tossing around ideas in my head about like what would be a way like to appease the app. Like what's stopping from CrossFit now from basically selling and then licensing the sport, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that might be the only way, but then again, you still have to deal with the issue is that if money's going into Greg's pockets and somehow what they're doing is going to make money for him.
Yeah.
That's the sense I get.
Well,
they don't want to be part of that.
If it's an affiliate licensing style fee, then it's a little bit smaller, and then the revenue share is the large chunk goes to the athletes and stuff like that. So I don't know.
There are solutions out there, and I would be shocked if they're not being spoken about right now.
I would hope so,
because I don't know what are we up to as far as athletes who've decided who are not coming. I mean, there's some significant names, and I'll be shocked if more don't start jumping on the train here.
Yeah, 20% of the field has already vowed to not go for various reasons, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like you said, I would not be surprised as we start to move on, and. Just as I'm sure, conversations and things are being had up at HQ between people behind the scenes that are not public right now, which I wish there was a little bit more communication on that front, what's coming down the pipe. I'm sure athletes are talking to. I can guarantee you athletes are mm-hmm. talking, and they're trying to figure out what their plan of action for. Like, because I don't think the athletes want to provide a divided front,
Yeah.
And if they really want more control about their destiny in the sport, they're going to have to collectively bargain. And, whether that looks like a union or something else, unions are a tricky thing anyways, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see, I feel like there's been a ton that have been biding their time, and we're going to start to see them speak out to some extent,
Agreed.
whether that be good or bad.
Yeah.